Hello, class. I wanted to talk to you today about my presentation, about my project and what I did. I titled it Charity, a Study of Manhood. My name is Rhett Hunt, and I'll be talking a little bit about this. So, the purpose of my project um, is to think of something that applied specifically to me. I got engaged right before the beginning of my semester, and I wanted to be the best that I could be for my wife and for my future family. So, I decided to use something that would help me be the best. And I believe that that's charity. So, my project, what did I do? Throughout the semester, I used examples from the New Testament to compare the divine man with the worldly man. That is, the man that Heavenly Father wants me to be, and the husband and father that He wants me to be, compared with the man that the world wants me to be. Most of these principles apply to the Christ like attribute of charity. For the sake of time, though, on the presentation, I'm going to analyze four main attributes and then list a few at the end of the slides that you're welcome to look at. Well, as I go through, I'll talk about the learning outcomes to know, to understand, to believe, and to change. Um, I want to understand what Christ said. I want to know why He said it. I want to know whether or not I believe that that actually makes a difference in my life. And I want to make goals of how I can apply this to my life and to my marriage. The first thing I discussed is men and profanity. In Matthew 15:11, Christ says that what proceeds out of the mouth defiles a man, and not what goes in. I understand this to be a reference to profanity and crude language. I believe that profanity does two main things. One, it portrays the user as uneducated and vulgar. Two, it makes others around them feel uncomfortable. So when we refrain from profanity, we show charity to ourselves and also to those around us. I think that's really important. Um, and then the lesson that and then the comparison with the worldly man is that profanity occurs everywhere you look. It seems that the manliest man is the one who can swear the loudest, or the one who is unconcerned with what other people think or feel. Now, the lesson I took away from this is that vulgar or rude language is never okay. And I made a goal that I will never use profanity, especially in my house, directed at either my wife or my future kids. That's just not okay. Second principle is men and power. How men view power. In Matthew 16:19, Christ promises Peter the keys of the priesthood of heaven even. I take this to be that Christ is saying, Peter, I know you're a capable guy. I know you're strong, and I know you're um, this manly man. But remember that you can't do everything by yourself, and you have to rely on the powers of heaven to some extent. I believe that it's so important to rely on Heavenly Father because He's given us everything, and He has way more power than any of us can ever have. I tend to be a do-it-myself kind of man, because of this project, I've strived to be aware of when I can ask for help and rely on other powers outside myself. Specifically, as the lesson on the bottom right suggests, is that I have made a commitment to strive to rely on my wife. That this isn't the Rhett Hunt show; this is the Hunt family show. So we're all in it together. The worldly man, on the other hand, seems to not want to ask for instructions or directions. When a man gets lost, the last thing he wants to do is ask for directions. In Matthew 5:39, Christ talks about turning the other cheek. In Luke 9:54, James and John ask Christ if they should call fire down from heaven. Christ, of course, tells them not to. Christ heals the ear of the soldier that Peter cut off. Clearly, Christ is not big into violence because it really doesn't solve anything. Although I'm not violent with anyone, I often find myself thinking unkind thoughts to others. I've made a commitment to keep my thoughts calm and kind. In the worldly man, it seems like the manliest man is the one that can punch the hardest or fight the best. We often joke that, oh, my dad's better than your dad because he can beat up your dad or whatever, and that's of course not the portrayal of charity that Christ would have us do. And so the lesson is that the last thing I want my wife to think is that I will be violent or abusive in any way. And so I am completely devoted to striving to handle situations openly, calmly, and together. The fourth and last principle I wanted to talk about is that of personal success. In Luke 9:46, we find that the apostles are arguing about who's the best. And Christ tells them that the least among them is the greatest. I understand this, that Christ is telling them not to find success in other people's failures. I truly believe that that is so important. I've seen this in my own life. Although I might feel successful about myself or putting someone else down, I ultimately feel bad for hurting others, and that's just not worth it. This is definitely something I need to work on. And so I am I have become more committed to building my family upon principles of joint success and unity, rather than one person over the other. That this is a joint effort. The worldly man, on the other hand, finds satisfaction in putting others down. It's not who can be their best, but who can make others look the worst. And I have become more committed to being my best, not necessarily the best. And here are some other comparisons that I made. You're welcome to pause this video and look at them. But for the sake of time, I just wanted to share with you those four main ones that I thought were most influential to me. I've come to know a lot of what Christ said. I've come to understand why he said it and why it's important. I've come to find in myself a belief that those things are actually applicable and that they matter. And I've also come to change. I've come to see the effects of these things in my own life and strive to be better. So I thank you for taking this time to watch, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a good one. Take care.